Hey, welcome to this video where I'm going to talk to you about C-section and how to decrease your risk for C-section. I'm Annabelle, I'm a nurse and a mama, and I had a vaginal delivery and a beautiful birth experience, but it didn't just happen like that. I took 4 steps to be fearless in labor and delivery and have the beautiful birth experience that I wanted. And if you want the same thing, then at the end of this video, click the link below and come and join me for my free class. But I want to talk to you about C-section real quick. So maybe you're thinking, I don't really think I should watch this video. I'm not going to have a C-section, so maybe this doesn't relate to me. Well, 1 in 3 women in the United States will have a C-section. That means that 33% of all of the women that are pregnant right now in the United States will have a C-section. These aren't women that just it was elective. They thought, yeah, that's what I want. I'm going for that. And so I'm in that group. No, this group includes women that had no idea that they were at risk for C-section. They went into labor. They went into the hospital thinking, I'm going to deliver vaginally. All of a sudden, the doctor or nurse says your baby's in danger or you're in danger. We need to rush you off to the OR and deliver by C-section. And you are scared, you just want your baby to be safe, and you think that they're making the best decision for you, and you have no say in the matter. And so here today, I want to tell you a little bit about why you shouldn't just want a C-section and how to decrease your risk for being one of those women that has a C-section. So there's definitely pros to having a C-section, but it's all about the scale. It's about, okay, vaginal is the way to go until there starts to be things that tip the scale where C-section is the better option. But it's just not automatically the best option. We want your baby to deliver through the birth canal because your baby will be at a lower risk for infection 5 years down the road. So when your baby comes down through the birth canal, it squeezes your little baby's body, squeezes the chest and the abdomen, and any amniotic fluid that's still sitting in the lungs, because your baby has been in amniotic fluid all these months, and there is chances that there could be some amniotic fluid in the lungs. It's going to squeeze all of that out. Your baby might cough a little bit at birth. The nurses and doctors are going to stimulate the baby and suction out any fluids that are remaining. If your baby is delivered by C-section, that's not going to happen. And so studies do show that babies that are born by C-section, that first 5 years of life, they are at a greater risk for infection. So that's the reason, number one, that maybe you shouldn't just want a C-section. But you're also at risk for infection. You have been opened up from the inside out. You have an incision that is going to be tender and painful, and you aren't going to recover as quickly as from a vaginal delivery because you have to be aware of this incision. And it is small. These days they're not making as big of incisions as the classical incision, but it's still an incision to be aware of. You don't feel like you want to get out of bed as quickly. And, for moms that just want to have a natural birth, it's just not the way that they want to go. And so we want to encourage you to just not think, okay, yeah, C-section's the best option. It is for the moms that are high risk, that the baby is in danger, that the mom's in danger. And so let's talk about how to decrease your risk. My number one thing that I want to talk about right now is you need to be looking at your healthcare provider. So if you go and see a midwife, and that's who you're planning on having deliver you, that midwife is not going to do a C-section. She's not medically trained to do a C-section. She's not a physician. She's not going to be the one there taking you to a C-section. So if you go to a physician, an OBGYN, you need to be talking to them about their philosophy on C-section. What do they think? Do they think that it's the best option? Are they saying, yeah, I think that it's a pretty viable option. If you want to have an elective C-section, I'm okay with that. That's not a doctor you want to be going to if you don't want to have a C-section. You need to be looking either by asking them or looking at their records what their C-section rate is. And look at primary C-section rate. So this means that first-time moms that have never had a C-section before, what is the percentage of moms they take for C-section? You want this to be less than 10%. You need to be talking to the hospital that doctor is affiliated with and where you're going to deliver. What is their C-section rate? Do they take a lot of moms to C-section, or do they really try to stay away from it? Is that their philosophy? So making sure that you are on the same level as your physician is going to be your number one way to know if you are at greater risk for C-section or not. Because if they have in their mind that you look like a C-section patient based off of your risk factors and your lifestyle, then you need to consider talking to another healthcare provider. The next way that you can decrease your risk for C-section is getting a plan and getting yourself educated in that plan. So you have to know how you want the rest of your pregnancy and labor and delivery to happen in your mind. And this has to be an educated way of coming up with this plan. Yes, we all have wants and desires, and we're going to write some things down, but knowing what is possible and what's not possible, being educated in your plan is going to help you decrease your risk for C-section and have the beautiful birth that you want. So creating a birth plan means, okay, do I want an epidural or do I not want an epidural? Do I want pain meds or do I not want pain meds? Do I want to stay at home as long as possible because I know that doing that is going to help me not get an epidural? Or do I want to go to the hospital right away? Do I want a support person, my husband, a doula, my mom, a sister? Creating a birth plan is going to help you lay down on a piece of paper what you want, and then we can take steps to getting what you want. So with this video, what you want is no C-section. So what are the steps to not having a C-section? Well, this means that staying at home as long as possible, at least until you're 5 centimeters dilated. That means your cervix is opening and you're in active labor with contractions no more than 5 minutes apart. They're lasting 60 to 90 seconds, and I'm in pain that I can't talk through because it hurts so bad. So that active labor, and you have stayed at home through that, and then you go to the hospital. If you do that, you will decrease your risk for C-section by half, 50%. So staying at home as long as possible. Choosing no epidural. So studies do say, and they show, that if you get an epidural, that doesn't in and of itself increase your risk for having a C-section. What it does do, though, is women come into the hospital very early. They're not in active labor. Their cervix is not dilated to 5 centimeters, and they get an epidural. Epidurals slow down labor. So your process is going to take longer, and you're going to be in bed the whole time because you can't get out of bed with an epidural. So you're in bed, you're in bed, you're in bed. They're monitoring baby the whole time, and they're seeing the baby's heart rate going down and then up and then down and then up. And this is normal for babies' heart rates. But when it happens for so long and the hospital is just nervous because we're dealing with life here, the doctors and the nurses get a little antsy. And it's taking a long time. Your cervix just isn't seeming to progress and open and soften. We need to have a C-section. You've been in bed too long, the baby's heart rate's making me too nervous, and let's just take her to C-section and get this done. So in that sense, getting an epidural, especially before 5 centimeters, will increase your risk for C-section. So if you have in your mind that I don't think I can do this, I don't think I can do a natural delivery, and you want an epidural, my encouragement to you is to stay at home at least until you're 5 centimeters dilated. And so with that, you're still gonna need your breathing and relaxation techniques because it's hard to get to that point and it can be scary. And this is where, again, I want to encourage you to come and join me in my class to get fearless in labor and delivery because you can do this. So if you want an epidural, try to stay at home and not get one until you're at least in active labor. And for those of you mamas that say, heck no, I don't want an epidural, still stay home as long as possible. So that will decrease your risk for C-section. Talking about epidural is an intervention, and interventions increase your risk for C-section. So what is an intervention? Well, a big intervention is induction of labor. Why and what is induction of labor? Induction of labor means that we are synthetically, so we're faking it in a sense, making your body go into labor because we want you to go into labor as healthcare providers. You're past your due date, you are just needing to get this over with because your husband's going out of town or the doctor's going out of town, whatever it might be. The doctor says, come on into the hospital. We're going to give you some medicine that we're going to put into your vagina and up into your cervix, and it's going to soften your cervix, get it ready to open. We're going to have you come in and we're going to start a Pitocin drip on you. It's medication out of a bag into your arm as an IV that's going to get some contractions going and open up your cervix. Come on in, we're going to break your bag of waters. These are interventions that we say is induction of labor, but it can increase your risk for C-section. Example, your bag of water, we break your bag of waters. Okay, now the baby has no protection around him and we want baby to deliver. 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour. It's been 24 hours and you're still not in active labor, you're not progressing, and baby's not coming. You're at risk for infection. Oh my goodness, we don't want you to get an infection because it's been 24 hours since your bag of waters has been broken and we need to take you for C-section. So these medical interventions that are just because we want you to be delivered can increase your risk for C-section. So making sure that you're talking to your doctor about, I don't want these unnecessary interventions. Baby's okay, I don't need to be induced. We're just gonna let it roll. Maybe he'll deliver a little bit late. And so that's a conversation to be having with your doctor, but definitely will decrease your risk for C-section. All right, so that's all I'm gonna say about induction and interventions, because this video could just go on and on and on, but it's important because you don't want a C-section. And so now I'm going to go into my very last thing that I wanna talk to you about, and it is having your labor support. So I talked about the birth plan, writing your birth plan, knowing what your birth plan is gonna be, who is going to be by your side at home when it's painful and you're saying, I gotta stay home, we gotta get through this, I gotta decrease my risk for C-section, I gotta decrease my risk for interventions, we're gonna stay home and do this, baby. So that was my husband standing by my side. If you have a doula, they're probably not gonna say baby. If it's your sister, they're probably not gonna say baby, but if it's your mom, she might. If your husband, it might. So I had my husband by my side and he was a great labor support. When I felt like I couldn't do it anymore, he was there to say, you can do this, you're doing it already, you were created to do this. Studies show that if you have labor support with you, you decrease your risk for C-section by 26%. So having that labor support there with you is going to be so important. Make sure that he or she has practiced the relaxation techniques with you and the breathing techniques with you. Make sure that he or she knows your birth plan and can enforce it, knows your medical history and your obstetrical history, so that when you're in labor at the hospital and they're asking you questions and they're saying, write this down and sign here and do this, that person can do that for you. That is the support that you need. All right, we're gonna save the rest for another time, but definitely click the link below and come and get fearless for labor with me, decrease your risk for C-section, and have a beautiful birth experience, mama.